money being exchanged between buyers and sellers. So, I mean, of course, there's the sentiment of buyers are buying the seller's house, right? So, of course, there's a big chunk of money being exchanged. But I'm talking more about the small items.
Okay.
Things that can come up throughout the course of the transaction, whether it be a closing cost credit, a repair credit as a result of the inspections, rental adjustments if it's a multifamily, even fuel adjustments. Those are all items that are going to impact the real estate transaction and the way money is going to be exchanged between buyers and sellers. So first is the idea that there's this sentiment that everything is supposed to be disclosed openly on the settlement statement. So there's not supposed to be anything outside of the settlement statement. And that's a really important understanding, I think, for listeners, especially first-time homebuyers, to realize we need all of this to be in one place. Rental adjustments in a multiple family and security deposits are also something that, on occasion, more often than not, lenders will come back and say this is not something that can be included on the settlement statement. And the reason being is because of all the other credits that are included. So that's something that we see happen a lot where buyers have requested a closing cost credit. So this is money where the seller is giving back a reduction to the sales price to allow the buyer money towards their overall purchase. And that's fine. However, in specifically FHA type financing transactions, the lender is going to say, hey, at a certain point, we can't allow more credits. This is it for your credit use. So you can't get a credit for the rental. You can't get a credit for security because you've already got too many credits, Mr. Buyer. You need to bring money to make this transaction work. And without that minimum investment, which is what we call it, we're not going to allow the loan to move forward because they're not going to be able to sell it on the secondary market.
What is the limit? Like, so you're talking about a limit to closing costs. When you're FHA, which is 3.5% down program, which is federally insured, what is the limit? Is it 3%, 4%? Who sets that?
So it's really more about whether or not the buyer is making that minimum 3.5% investment. So if you have a $100,000 sales price and the buyer has to put in 3.5%, that's a minimum of $3,500.
Sure.
So in that instance, the buyer has to bring or show that they've paid at least $3,500 as their investment into the transaction between the down payment and any kind of prepaid homeowners and things of that nature. So that's where, if you see on the settlement statement that the buyer is getting back money and they're not putting down that minimum investment, that's when the bank is going to say, no, this cannot move forward. The seller will be responsible for certain costs associated with their tax stamps, their commissions, obviously, the attorney doc prep fee, any kind of administrative costs for recording discharges, making the overnight available for the attorney to send out their mortgage payoff. And it's probably a few $100s in what I call kind of ancillary miscellaneous charges that the sellers are not probably planning on.